Hello and welcome back to Perfect 10. I'm your host, Michael Cohen. Every episode, I sit down with a friend to talk about a piece of pop culture that they love. This isn't a review show, so put away your objectivity because everything we talk about is a perfect 10 to us. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Curtis, Dan, Brian, Mark, Sherston, and Brian B. And to all our Patreon supporters, your contributions make this podcast possible. You can head to patreon.com/thunderquack to get early access to Perfect 10, exclusive podcasts, and more. Buckle up, because we're headed to the death planet Genna on a hunt to bring back the unkillable Kalisk. Predator Badlands is a 2025 feature film directed by Dan Trachtenberg, starring Elle Fanning as Thea, a Wayland Yutani synth, and Dimitrius Schuster-Koloamatangi as Deck. I'm sorry, that's really hard to pronounce. A young Yautja hunter seeking to prove himself. Full of epic, sci-fi, dark fantasy elements, and a surprisingly good dose of humor, Trachtenberg once again takes the franchise in a fresh new direction, following up on his previous installments, Prey and Killer of Killers. And with us to dig into what makes this film a perfect 10 is fairy tale and myth expert, Missy. Welcome back to the show.
Hello, thank you. I'm excited. It was a long time coming, but we finally got around to doing this.
yes. This is we've been threatening this one for a while, and here it is. We're finally talking about Predator Badlands, which now in 2026, a few months into 2026, I will say is firmly my favorite movie of 2025. As much as I loved Superman, as much as I love K-pop Demon Hunters, both of which we've covered on the podcast, this movie was special, and not just because of how good it is, but because of what a surprise it was, because of how it came out of left field as a follow-up to Prey, as a follow-up to Killer of Killers, both of which are much more as much as they are fresh takes on the Predator franchise, they are much more straight down the middle. Prey really throws it a loop, and you and I talked about Prey a year, 2 years ago on the podcast, so people can go back and listen to that one because it's a great episode of Perfect 10. But Prey really follows the formula. It just takes the formula and flips it on its head by changing the setting and the sort of the perspective of our protagonist. And then Killer of Killers is this, for people who haven't seen it, who don't know, it's an animated feature that is comprised of essentially, people say sort of 3 short, but it's actually 4 because there's there's sort of like a 4th episode on the end of it. I just refer to it as Clone Wars for Predator. That's what it is.
That is what it is.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal, and the stories there are all 4 are great. And I mean, it varies. The first 2 I think are really, really strong. The third one's a little bit less so, but then the end of it is so good. But again, it is very Predator comes to Earth to do the thing, and these are the people who survive the encounters, sort of thing. But Badlands is not even a science fiction movie, right? This is a fantasy movie that just happens to have sci-fi elements. It is so much more in the Star Wars 1970s and 80s dark fantasy genre than it is any of the other Predator installments, which are very firmly science fiction. Even Prey, which is a historical sort of period piece, it's still science fiction because it's still, here's reality, and then what if an alien with technology did these things, right? Whereas this one is we're not going to explain anything. There's no need for lengthy exposition of anything other than setting, anything other than themes and motifs, right? This is a fantasy movie. So So this one hit different,
Mhm.
and different than what I was expecting going into the theater. I was ready for a wall to wall action
Mhm.
adventure, and then it is like it's full of like some of the best humor in
Yes.
in an action movie in a long time, and so much heart, and like it's this is actually, guys, this is a family film because
It is. We're gonna show it to both
yeah,
of our kids because we're like, it's so good, and they can
I
definitely see
yeah,
it.
I watched it with a 6 and 9 year old, and the both of them were captivated. They fell in love with the characters. They were in for the whole journey. They loved it. My wife loved it. Like and she, it's sometimes it's a little bit difficult to get her on board with some of this stuff. There's a lot of violence in this one, but because it's a Predator movie, um, but the fantasy elements of it, I think, kind of make it okay. I put it actually alongside John Carter, and in terms of like the violence, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's violent, but everything, all of the creatures have like, you know, orange or green or blue blood or whatever, and so it's all kind of very cartoony in
Yeah,
that
it
way.
it it having no humans
Not a,
definitely
yeah,
makes it
zero.
feel less violent, and I don't know what it is about our brains that we just don't register violence against non-humans as less violent, but we do.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
interesting. But yeah, that's part of the reason why it's easier for the kids to watch. And it's also just to your point because of the comedy, because of just the centerpiece of the story. It is a family film.
yeah.
I actually saw it, excuse me, with another couple, other parents that we like to hang out with sometimes. We literally put our elder children into the babysitting role and we're like, bye, parents are going out for a movie night. And we went to see it. It was just, it was so much fun. And it was funny too, because my husband and I, of course, we've seen Prey. We're big fans. We had seen Killer of Killers. We just like, we love all this. But the people that were with us, they actually had not seen either of those and were not
Mm,
super well versed in Predator lore in general. And they loved it too. So
yeah.
it's definitely a crowd pleaser of a movie, which is just very cool.
Yeah, yeah. I would say like I think actually one of the great things about the Predator franchise is that it does not matter. Well, I shouldn't say this. There are a couple that are like the bad ones
There
are
are
the ones
duds. There are duds
the
in this
bad ones are the
franchise.
ones where you need to know that there's other stuff in order to
Yeah.
like get any value out of them. But for the most part, the mainline entries in the series, Predator, Predator 2, the Predators, Prey, and Killer of Killers, and this one, they're all of those are movies that you can just literally drop yourself into, and you don't need to have seen the other ones in order to enjoy it.
Hmm.
I actually just watched Predator 2, um, oh man, like 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
And I was like watching it while I was working on stuff, but I had it sort of on the second screen, and that movie gets a bad rap as being like a bad sequel. I actually think Predator 2 is a great film.
Hmm.
And one of the reasons why is because like it just does such a great job of reestablishing everything that you need to know. And it's got the Easter eggs, it has the references to Dutch and everything
Hmm.
that happened in the first movie, if you care, but it also doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
also it's Danny Glover's movie, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
um like this is another one in the franchise, and I think Dan Trachtenberg gets that. I mean,
Hmm.
honestly, he just gets this franchise
Oh, very much. Yeah.
in a way that I don't think that anybody else who's ever had their hands on it like gets why. And it's that he grew up with it and has been thinking about it and has dissected it and knows why the audience wants in on it, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so like when he makes these Predator movies, he's making them in a way that I think is very true to those first two, especially, where it's like, yeah, man, just drop into the adventure. It doesn't matter how much background knowledge you have, the rules of whatever. I mean, like a lot of the Predator staples are actually not even referenced in this one
Hmm.
because he's hunting creatures, right?
Yeah, they're
So
not relevant
yeah,
to
so
this story.
the whole like, like, is he holding a weapon, can I attack him thing.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that goes in the opening
Yeah,
scene
the very
and in
beginning.
the final scene,
Mm-hmm.
with the Yautja politics of it, but it's really like, it's not, we don't like hang on it, it's not that important. It's a thing that, like, if you know, you know, but otherwise it doesn't really matter. You just
Mm-hmm.
know that these guys are honor bound warrior, yada yada yada. Like, you get it. It's more vibe than it
Mm-hmm.
is sci-fi exposition. Hence why I
Yeah.
say, like, this is, I don't think that this one's sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
It's very fantasy, especially exemplified in the third act by our character's transformation, where there's no technology involved, right? Like,
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
almost
Mm-hmm.
like he makes a point of it, of like, this one's not those ones, and
Well,
that's why Deck is different, right?
it's because and we'll get to this as we kind
Yeah.
of like, talk about some of the details of the film, but it's because part of his kind of lesson and discovery is that his technology fails him. He
Mm-hmm.
has to adopt literally another culture in order to succeed, which is a super fascinating lesson, and also kind of brings me to the other thing about Dan Trachtenberg is, as much as he creates these films and shows that fit so well into this universe as a whole, he also has a very unique perspective. I would actually say he's a lot more sentimental than people who have worked in this franchise in the past.
Yeah.
And for me personally, that works for me. It's a much better hook for me in this, because as much as I enjoy the action alone typically won't do it for me. But in his movies, there is an emotional core that's very powerful, and
Mm-hmm.
it carries me through. And so I just really love all of these, and I love how well they fit together. I love the way they stand alone. It's just really, and for me, it actually does make the other Predator films, which maybe I was less enthused about, I enjoy them more now. So you said you
Yep.
watched two recently. Like, I rewatched one recently and I enjoyed it more because,
Yep.
with the context of this whole series, now I'm like, this is really fun. I really like this.
And
So, mhm.
that's one of those key things that I always say about Star Wars when we're reviewing stuff, and the question of, like, is this a good Star War, comes
Mhm.
up. My metric is not as much like, does it stand on its own, because Star Wars is this sort of living, breathing organism as a
Mhm.
franchise. My metric is, does this entry in Star Wars make other Star Wars better?
Yeah.
Does it
Mhm.
enhance the overall? Because people want to do that, like, objectivity thing of like, oh, but I just want to look at this movie on its own. It's like, but you can't.
You
You
can't.
can't.
You can't. Yeah.
That's actually not possible.
Mhm.
It's like saying, it's like eating a hamburger and
Yeah.
going like, well, but I'd like to just judge this based on the lettuce today
Mhm.
and not on the
Yeah.
rest of the hamburger. And it's
Yep.
like, why would you do that? It is a hamburger. The hamburger is the whole experience, and Star Wars is the whole experience, and Predator, since Dan Trachtenberg came in, has become this whole experience. And
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
was on such a different path with the Alien versus Predator stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
And obviously, like, this brings some of those elements back into the Predator franchise. Which, let me just lay it out for everybody, because people get really confused by this. Alien exists in its own universe, the Alien movies and Alien Earth. That is its own thing. Predator exists in its own universe. The Xenomorphs and Weyland Yutani in the far future also exist in that universe.
Right.
They are not the same Xenomorph and Weyland Yutani that are in the Alien universe. The Alien versus Predator universe is a nightmare, and we don't worry about it. There are actually multiple AVP universes. Even within the films, there are multiple universes because of inconsistencies within the films themselves. And then
Mhm.
there are the comic books. There's a video game. There's a
Mhm.
whole bunch of AVP stuff.
Yeah.
And AVP is just for fun. Like, just leave it alone. It's like, if you
Yeah.
want to watch a fun movie, I like the first AVP. The second one, not so much. Like,
Mhm.
they're just silly action movies. They don't really connect into anything, and they don't really build anything.
AVP is a
The
secret third thing.
Yeah, exactly. But that distinction of, like, thus far, Alien is on its own. It always has been and it always will be.
Mm-hmm.
There are little things. Actually, Alien isn't on its own. It's connected to Blade Runner,
Oh
but
yeah.
that's a whole other kettle of fish because that means it's also connected to Total Recall.
Oh
But
my gosh.
whatever. That's an Alien conversation and a Blade Runner and Total Recall conversation. Predator is outside of that, but Predator plays with the elements from the Alien series because of the crossover elements.
Mm-hmm.
So Predator Badlands is actually the first one that really plays with it,
Yeah,
but
it leaned
that
in
isn't
pretty
an
hard.
AVP. But yeah,
And at the same time, you also, to your point from earlier, you don't actually have to be familiar with the lore, so to speak, in order to
yeah,
understand it. It's all very clear. Like, oh, it's a corporation and they have
yeah.
androids, and it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You know,
Same as all the Predator elements. You don't
right?
need to know anything, but if you do, you know that Mother is the AI sort of
Mm-hmm.
brain that runs Weyland Yutani, and the way, oh my god, the way that he puts them against each other of like
Yeah,
Alien is Mother, Yautja the Predator is father. He
yeah,
only calls him father. He doesn't, and it's like it's just so genius. This is just Dan
it's really
Trachtenberg just
good.
being like, "Hey guys, look at this. This is
Well,
neat. I
it's
had this
something that
idea."
we say often, like, Marie Claire and I say this often. I think you and I have said this often, like, subtext is for the weak.
Mhm.
And Dan
Yeah,
Trachtenberg clearly believes in that because
yeah,
everything is in the script. He's
yeah,
making sure you don't miss it. He also repeats things frequently. And I would actually argue he is an absolute master of planting and payoff. Nothing is
yes,
wasted in
yes,
his films. They are so tight. And
yeah,
so this is an excellent example of that. And watching it a second time in preparation for this conversation, I was able to pick up on like, oh my gosh, literally every single tiny thing makes a
yeah.
reappearance later. Everything has more significance than we realize.
He really is like he writes his sci-fi and fantasy movies
Mm-hmm.
in the same way that he writes suspense and thriller.
Yep.
And I think like that's the thing is that he's really a student of all of these genre, and I mean like capital G genre
Yeah.
films, that he brings in elements from all of it, very similar to Ryan Johnson, right? Where Ryan Johnson will
Oh,
do
totally.
a whodunit, but in his whodunit he brings in so many comedy elements.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
brings in his fantasy stuff. He brings in science fiction stuff.
Yep.
And then by the end of each one of these Benoit Blanc mysteries, it's like he's built something up and you're like, oh, so there's some like fantastical element, and then by the end of it you're like, no, there's not.
Yeah.
But he can do that because he's a master of all of those genres because he
Mm-hmm.
studied them. Dan Trachtenberg, same school. Like
Yeah.
they're these guys are really just like students of film, and because of that they're not afraid to bring in elements from
Mm-hmm.
other things that other people would be like, but that's not part of this. And it's
Yeah.
like, but why not? And that honestly, that's what George Lucas was doing, and
Yes.
it's why Star Wars works,
Mm-hmm.
because he borrows from everything in order to support the main thing. And also, so yeah, subtext is for the weak. Like that's it. That is very much, I think it comes from George to us,
Yeah.
and then we celebrate it because yeah, that is I you know what it is. It's that nobody wants to do the work anymore. And I want to talk about a movie that people like, they have the same experience as me. I'm really tired of going to films and walking out of it and going like, wow, man, Superman really had a lot to say about X, Y, and Z. And
Mm-hmm.
then the person next to me is like, what do you mean? And
Yeah.
it's like, and I actually don't think that James Gunn's Superman was particularly subtle, but it was subtle enough that a lot of people did miss the point of a
Absolutely.
lot of things.
No, I totally
Um,
agree with that. I've been noticing that recently too. I, on What the Fiction, we just finished our Bridgerton series, and it is
mm,
amazing how often I talk to people that are like, well, there's not really anything going on there. It's just like, trash. And I'm like, wow, no.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
there's so much depth there. And so that kind of media I really love. And to your point about, I would argue the similarities movies between, Dan Trachtenberg, Rian Johnson, and even George Lucas, like you said, I think that the cool thing about their work is that it does actually function on different levels. On the one hand, they
Yeah.
are so careful to, again, make everything text so that the audience can follow what is happening and what they're trying to say. So it is very clear. And on the other hand, they tend to have so many wonderful details going on that if you are a little more plugged in and looking under the surface, there's plenty to explore there. So I always like that they exist on multiple levels. So something like Wake Up Dead Man, like it's easy to enjoy as just a
Mhm.
straightforward whodunit. And then if you also want to dig into everything going on under the surface, it's just a treasure trove. And so this is such a fun movie. Predator Badlands
Mhm.
is such a fun movie because, yeah, it's a straightforward adventure. It's an installment in the Predator franchise, exactly what the story is about and why it's being told and what it means for the characters and all this stuff. That's all very clear. You can't miss it. And then there's more if you care to look.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I mean, I think it's actually the key to making rewatchable
Mm-hmm.
films and television shows. Right?
Yep.
Is having it as like boldface as possible
Mm-hmm.
on the surface, and having a story and themes, honestly, that are easy to track and
Yeah.
follow for on that first watch, so that when you watch it the first time, you're like, yeah, I get this, I'm in,
Mm-hmm.
if it vibes with you, it vibes with you, right? But then having that subtlety, having the more nuanced stuff, and this is where playing with a franchise like Predator that has this history, and then bringing in the alien elements as well, I you get to have those layers
Mm-hmm.
that make it rewatchable.
Yep.
I've watched this movie 3 times on its own and once with the audio commentary. The audio commentary is great. It is very technical. Like it's
Mm.
much more about the how and a lot less about the why,
Yeah.
which, like, I would love it if they did another audio commentary
Yeah,
that was a
right.
little bit more of the like, hey, but also I'm just gonna say this, I think Dan Trachtenberg doesn't want to tell us. I think
I
that
know.
he talks about these movies in like this great effusive way. He usually tends to start talking about the technical stuff,
Yep.
and I think it's because he likes to keep his storytelling tricks close to the vest, which I
Mm-hmm.
actually honestly appreciate so much. It's like the opposite of Christopher Nolan, who was like a few movies in and then was like, here's the Prestige,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, you should have waited until you were like much farther into your, and like, you never know, like Christopher Nolan doesn't know that he's going to have a decades long career and he's going to be able to make
Sure.
whatever movies he wants, so he makes the Prestige when he makes it because he feels compelled to make it. But I watch the Prestige and then I go, cool, all of your movies are ruined for me from now until forever because you've just pulled back the curtain and shown me the wizard.
Yeah.
I can't watch any of his movies without going like, so when are you gonna do it then?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the thing where I say like, yeah, Christopher Nolan is just pretentious M. Night Shyamalan. Um, and that's not a dig at Christopher Nolan or M. Night Shyamalan. I think they both make great movies. They don't make movies for me. Like, not
Yeah.
generally. M. Night Shyamalan every once in a while pulls one out, and I'm like, ooh, that's good. But I Broken Clock is right twice a day. So I but yeah, like, those are filmmakers that like really love to like come out and like tell you everything. They love to really like
Mm-hmm.
sort of like show it off. And Dan Trachtenberg is he's such an interesting filmmaker to me because he loves to talk about his movies. Again, very similar to Rian Johnson. They will talk at length about their movies and about their stories, and then when you start pressing them on like, yeah, but what was that one thing about, they go, I don't know, what do you think it was about?
Right, exactly. Yeah, well, and part of that is a question of and I don't know as much about Dan Trachtenberg's process, so I'd be really
Hmm.
interested, to kind of dig into, again, his typical approach, I guess. Because the thing about Ryan Johnson that I do know is true is that he is very heads down on the script and
Yeah.
storyboarding for a long time before he ever starts filming. And so, whereas we know that the modern thing nowadays is that a lot of times there's not a completed script, or at best there's maybe the first draft
Yeah.
before a film goes into production. We know that filmmakers like Rian Johnson are very like, I have a finished and refined script and
Yeah.
storyboard before I ever
Yeah.
touch anything. And Trachtenberg's work feels very similar in that regard. I get the impression that he spends time just heads down in the story before he's ever getting into any of those
Yeah.
technical details of how he's going to bring it to life,
Yeah.
because that's how you get that very tight feeling that it has. The fact that it can have all these amazing world building details and all of this cool fantasy stuff going on. Like, I love all the flora and fauna and
Mm-hmm.
on Genna and everything. It's just so cool. But the only way you can really focus on that stuff and then still have a coherent story is because you worked out all the kinks in the story beforehand. Like,
Yeah.
you did that work. And so I think to your point about like, they love to talk about it, but then they don't. It's like they love to talk about the process of bringing it to life, but all of that early like idea
Yeah.
generation and what ideas that they tossed out and reasons for why they did that. And like, I think Ryan does a lot of journaling and stuff. So that they don't talk about as much because it's more personal. And so that's when they go, well, what do you think? And that's so kind of annoying and also cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it means they really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's totally accurate, is that like they do the work up front. And one of the things that is so interesting about that, and I think the balance with both of those filmmakers, when you hear actors talk about working with them,
Mm-hmm.
is that they've done all of that work ahead of time. They've laid all that groundwork. There's a solid foundation, but then on the day,
Mm-hmm.
if it takes us somewhere else,
Yeah.
it takes
Yeah.
us somewhere else. But you can only do that
Yeah.
if you have that solid foundation and
Right.
you're a director who has that larger vision that can go, yes, okay, I like that idea. Let's do this. But
Mm-hmm.
that means that now I need you to also do this one other thing,
Right.
because 3 scenes from now it's going to affect that.
Right. Right.
Or hey, somebody, script supervisor, take a note. In 3 scenes, we have to remember to call
Mm-hmm.
back to this,
Yep.
because originally it's like, this isn't in the script, but now these 2 moments are going to be connected, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
those are directors that very much work that way, right?
Yeah.
That go like, yeah, we're going to play with it, and the actors are going to bring their thing, and it's a collaborative medium.
Sure.
But that is the job of the director.
Mm-hmm.
It's not their job to like tell everybody what to do. It's their job to wrangle the chaos that is the artistic process. Like, that's the job of a director.
I've always heard it
Um,
described as like they hold the vision, and it's
yeah,
more important than any other part of their job. Nothing is as important as them maintaining the vision of what
yeah,
the film is, because nobody else has that 10,000 foot view that they have of like being able to see how it all is going to fit together. Everyone else has like their job. They only see one small slice of it. I always find this interesting when they interview actors on these things, because they'll talk about how like someone will be like, what was this like for you? Da, da, da. And they're like, well, I mean, it was like shooting just my scenes and nothing else and having no idea
yeah,
how it was going to fit together once it was
yeah.
all edited and scored and lighting and blah, blah, everything. And so that's the most important job of a director. And there are the people, to your point, that have such a clear vision, that those are the ones that are able to improvise or
Hmm.
take in additional ideas based on what's
Yeah.
happening on set or whatever, and still have something very coherent come out.
Yeah, I think the best example of it in this movie is what ends up being one of the most standout. I mean, honestly, for me, it was the moment where I was like, "Oh, this just became my favorite Predator movie."
Mm-hmm.
Not and might be one of my favorite movies of the year. And that's when they're fighting the bone bison and it's
Mm-hmm.
coming after them, and Deck just like tosses the sword and it just bisects the thing.
Yeah, it's
And
so
but as it
cool.
does, he reaches his hands out, he grabs the spine and
Yep.
he rips it out, because guys, it's not just an action movie. This
It's a
is a
Predator
Predator
movie.
movie, and
Yeah,
we
that's what
have
they
to
do.
like, and that scene
Mm-hmm.
is not in the script.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even like it wasn't until they started shooting, basically, like in the commentary,
Mm-hmm.
they go into all of this, like they talk about it at length, that like that was a whole different sequence. It ended a completely different way. There were other like beats in it that were going to happen that
Mm-hmm.
don't end up happening. Some of them end up in other parts of the movie and stuff, but essentially it was like they got to a point where they were like, how are we gonna do this, how is this gonna make any sense? And as a group, I don't remember who it was, but somebody else kind of came up with the idea of what would happen,
Yeah.
of him like throwing the sword in it and it bisecting the bone bison. um and they were like, oh, but but how's that gonna make sense? And they're like, we just got to figure it out, it's too cool of an idea
Yeah, I
to
gotta do
not
it.
do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they do, and it ends up, like, to me, it is really like there are like two or three moments in this movie that are really like that's the movie, right? and
It's so
and that is
cool.
one of them. It's such a great moment. I love it
Mm-hmm.
so much. I it's This is a movie where I have a hard time, because it's like, well, I really love this part, but I also really love this part, and I also really love this part, but just like
Yep.
it just from start to finish is such a joy to
Mm-hmm.
watch. Like, it's just such a fun movie, and it just makes me happy, in
Yeah.
a way that very few movies these days manage to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've talked so much, and you have so many notes, and you have
I
so
do
many
have
things
so
that
many
you want to
notes.
say. So I want to like hand it over to you, on all of this great stuff that you've got to talk about. So I'm gonna hand the reins over to you, and I'm gonna try and talk less for the rest of this episode. No promises, because I love
Well,
this movie so
uh,
much. But
yeah. And you're very
but
kind, but like I'm gonna throw things to you because this is
for sure.
the thing is I don't have people in my life to get excited about this
Yeah, yeah,
movie.
yeah,
So sorry, you have to do it for me. But no, like okay, so some of the things I just love, to your point about like, oh, I love this scene, but I love that scene. But
yeah.
I just love that first fight with Quay. It's great. It's a
Yes.
lightsaber battle. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
these plasma swords that cut everything except one another, that's a lightsaber.
Yep.
So it's a lightsaber battle. And so of course I'm just delighted. Yes. And this is what the first time I'm gonna say it, and you're welcome to argue with me, but
Yeah, yeah.
give Dan Trachtenberg a Star Wars. Like,
I'm gonna wait until the end. I'm gonna
okay,
save
fair
it. I'm
enough.
gonna save it till the end, because I think
Fair
my
enough.
take is controversial.
That's fair, and that's why I'm happy to discuss it. But
Yeah,
but
yeah,
just the beginning there, the fact that it starts with a lightsaber battle, two brothers, like it just it just made my little Star Wars fan heart happy. So
yeah,
that was
for sure.
great. And then there's always there are things that I recognized immediately from Prey. That was another aspect of this movie is, oh, even if you didn't know this was the same director, you would figure it out within the first 5 minutes
Yep.
because there's a bunch of stuff in there that is also very Prey like. So in Prey, there's, I don't remember the progression of creatures, but like progressively larger and larger creatures. So I think it starts with like, I don't remember. There's
Yeah, it's like a
a
bug,
bug and then a
and then
mouse and then a
yeah,
snake and then
yeah,
he kills the snake and he like similarly he like rips the like spine out of the snake. He does the
yeah,
same thing later with like there's a rabbit or a hare and then a wolf attacks it and then
yeah,
he kills the wolf and rips the spine out. Same thing. So that is also here in terms of the point is always how do you know it's a predator movie, because we start with showing like the food chain basically, and
yeah,
so it starts with this creature on the Yautja home world and the bigger one eats the bigger one is the bigger one and then vroom, like he comes by on his speeder and like
yeah,
flattens the whatever
yeah,
that other predator was. And so and that always makes me laugh a little because it is very heavy-handed. But again, that's how Dan Trachtenberg rolls. Is
yeah,
he tends to be very in your face. We want to be very clear about what you're watching and what this is about and what our
yeah,
point is. So it's really fun. And then you back to the sort of planting and payoff idea. Everything in that early part of the film shows up later. Every single tiny piece.
yeah,
So there's the mask that his brother wears obviously becomes into play later. There's that little toy that they see on the ship.
yeah.
I think, do we see Naru go by real quick when they're looking for a destination. They're looking for like like they're trying to find his next prey, and I think she goes by really fast on the
Yeah,
visualizations.
there's like a bunch of Easter eggs on that
Yeah.
scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there are tons of
Mm-hmm.
creatures that are from different things.
Yeah.
I don't remember if
I
we
think
see
she does.
that,
It's like
but
very subtle, but it's like, they're kind
yeah,
of flipping through. Oh, you could, let's see what creature you're going to go after. There's this one, there's this one, there's this one. And like she kind of goes by, and it's right before he says, wait, go back. And then he sees the Kalisk or whatever. But
yeah.
um,
This is
I
in
think she's
terms
in
of the
there.
films. This is the furthest in the future that we've ever been with a predator,
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
one of the reasons why like their tech is actually more advanced because
Yeah.
it's several
Mm-hmm.
hundred years more advanced than any of the predators that we've seen before. And
Mm-hmm.
the funny thing is that with prey, he went the opposite way, where he went a few hundred years before. And the
Right.
predator that we saw
It's like an
in
earlier
prey,
predator. Mm-hmm.
he was using very much like bio organic,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
biotech types of equipment,
Yeah.
rather than the more like straight up sci-fi tech that we see in Predator 1 and 2. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but and here it's like the plasma swords and whatever. But in the commentary, he also talked a lot about how every time we've seen a Predator, essentially like thus far in the mainline films, they've been from a different clan, like
Right. Mm-hmm.
and so like they all have a larger, like, like broader way of life that they all follow, but then
Mm-hmm.
there are subtleties, and the technology is sort of what reflects that. And these plasma swords are actually like they were a thing of like he wanted it to distinguish them, that
Mm-hmm.
Deck had this sword, which is not a thing that we've seen before, but that these Yautja, this clan in particular, is very much about that close combat.
Mm-hmm.
They're much more interested in that hand to hand, getting your hands dirty
Yeah.
than I mean, in Predator 2, that Predator does a lot of distance killing
Right.
in a cloak, like very like he has the advantage. He's just sort of massacring
Mm-hmm.
people throughout the film. Um, and then when it comes to the hand-to-hand stuff, he actually can't keep up with Danny Glover, and
Right.
that's it. Like Dan Trachtenberg was kind of looking at it and going like almost to make a point of like Deck is from a clan where that would not be the case. Like Danny
Right.
Glover wouldn't have lasted 2 seconds,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like
Yes.
it, just to show that
Mm-hmm.
like there are differences in them, and it's that little stuff that like the movie doesn't tell you, that the movie
Right.
doesn't make that clear, but then when you watch the movie after listening to his commentary, you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I see it. Deck is a very like he Deck is gonna get in there, and he's gonna fight tooth and nail if he has to.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to be that type of character in order to survive Genna. Like it's
Yeah. Exactly.
because the technology isn't gonna last that long, right? So
Right. But it's also, I think that goes into like one of the larger themes of the film, which is very much this is about the failure of patriarchal culture and,
yes.
the power of feminine wisdom. That's literally what the story is about, which
Yep.
is just wild to me that that's what this is about. And to a great extent, that's what Prey was about as well. So it's
Hmm.
it's really,
Hmm.
really fascinating. But what ends up happening is that we see that all of that technology, all of those Yautja customs, the customs of his particular clan, all of these things ultimately fail him. And if he
Hmm.
relied on them, he would die. They are not going to succeed. And what's interesting is that from the beginning, when he first meets Thea, she's telling him this directly. Like when
Hmm.
she's saying, oh, yeah, you have to work with this planet to survive it. And that's literally what he has to do in the
Yeah.
end. And
Yeah.
it's about not fighting against the planet, but understanding it, working with it, tending to it, treating it with respect, treating the creatures with respect. And of course, what ends up happening is the creatures give that back in kind. Like I really love his relationship with the little eel
Yeah.
creature toward the end.
Yeah.
It's like so cute, but all of that is just amazing to me, and it's shocking that that's literally what this is about. Is patriarchal culture is its dominance, its violence, its obviously the masculine is in power, and there's all of these, any sort of emotion or feeling is weakness and all this other stuff, and that does not work for him. He goes to Genna, the so-called death planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it none of these, again, these customs or these tactics are working for him. And so I just think it's really fascinating that that's ultimately what this whole story is about. And then what's cool is that you have on in opposition to him, you have Tessa, and Tessa is trying to adopt patriarchy and use
Mm-hmm.
patriarchy as
Mm-hmm.
he's moving away from it. So she's stealing his technology, and she's, yeah, like everything she's trying to do is more dominance, more violence, and working against the planet. And so
Yeah.
it's just
there's a there's
really
a
fascinating.
there's a really interesting dichotomy between Deck's journey and his quest and Tessa's,
Mhm.
right? And it's that, like, and I think this is one of the reasons why Dan Trachtenberg puts those sequences at the beginning of his Predator movies, is to show that, like, the hunt is actually a part of the natural order. Like, it's like what the Predator is doing is not inherently evil.
Mhm.
It's evil from our perspective because we're the prey, right?
Right.
So we see it and we go like, well, this is a danger to us, it's a threat, therefore,
Mhm.
like the Predator represents this, like, sort of existential threat to humanity, right?
Mhm.
But because we're in the pilot seat with the Predator this time, that isn't the case.
Mhm.
Everything that he's gonna do, it's all part of his, it's his culture, it's the natural order, he's
Mhm.
hunting the Kalisk to hunt the Kalisk, because it's going to prove something, it's going to, and I mean, obviously ultimately he realizes that that's not what it is,
Mhm.
and he, like, by getting rid of the sort of the shackles of patriarchy,
Yeah.
he's able to evolve past it. But his quest is a noble quest, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's not corrupted. um
Yep.
and we're in that perspective, and that's what that opening shows us. And actually, it shows us that the technology, because the largest, the lizard or whatever, ends up roadkill
Right.
under the speeder, right? The
Mhm.
hunt is interrupted by the
Yep.
technology flattens this thing, and it's gross,
Yeah.
and we sort of hold on it for a second, and we go, it's roadkill, right? And we recognize that
Yeah.
as like this is a bad thing, right?
Mhm.
And Tessa is like, she's adopting the technology, she's seeking to dominate, she's seeking to control a thing
Mhm.
that is uncontrollable, whereas Deck is learning to let go of control
Yep.
and become one. He's very much learning the things that I think Naru knew inherently in
Yes.
in Prey, right? So he's going through that. We're seeing his journey into becoming a character more like her.
Mhm.
um but we're, like you said, like, we're seeing Tessa do the opposite.
Yep.
She doesn't want to kill the Kalisk.
Mhm.
Wayland Yutani wants to capture the Kalisk so that they can exploit it,
Yeah.
and they can corrupt it, and they can turn it into something evil. They
Yep.
want to corporatize it, they want to turn it into a product, they want to take this
Mhm.
marvel of nature, this
Yep.
incredible creature that is unkillable, and they
Mhm.
want to figure out how can we package that, sell that. And I mean, like, if you know the larger alien stuff, you know that this is all a Wayland thing. He wants to live forever, right?
Right.
That's it. But that's it. Dan Trachtenberg gets it, because
Mhm.
the Prometheus movies are not very good, but there is a core there. Like, the films themselves are a bit of a nightmare, but what they're trying to talk about humanity and our um sort of like this weird inclination that we have towards, like, immortality, and
Yep.
like the ideas of it, of living forever rather than living well, and, like, living a life of meaning is
Mhm.
is to extend your existence into eternity, right?
Yep.
And like the juxtaposition of those things. um and it's, again, it, if you don't know, it doesn't matter. But if you know that that's what Wayland Yutani is about,
Mhm.
then you know that's why they're here. You know that they're after
Exactly.
the Calisk. You know what they're going to use it for, what the
Mhm.
ultimate goal is, and you know that if they get it, you know what will happen.
Yeah.
because we've seen it in every Alien movie. Every time Weyland Yutani thinks it's okay, we can control the xenomorphs this time, they can't.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
Jurassic Park, right? It's
Yep.
like
Yep.
that's the trick. Like, you never have control. That's the illusion, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, this is why I love this movie
Yeah,
so much. It
because
literally
there's so
has
much going
everything I
on.
want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much going on, and I love it. And it's just there's so many there's just so many cool things. It's hard to even kind of focus on them all. But I just,
Yeah.
again, to go back to Thea actually tends to put everything, like, it's all directly there in her dialogue, which I really like. So there's the
Yeah.
whole, well, Yautja may hunt alone, but they also die alone, which sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
starts off this concept of like, you will fail doing this by yourself. You need help. And so it's so throughout the film, Deck is rescued by a number of other characters. He is rescued by Thea at the beginning, and then again later when they kind of work together to get him out when he's been captured. He is rescued by the small creature who becomes Bud, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously the eel sacrifices itself to save, I call it the eel because I don't know what to call it, but that's what it looks like to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But it sacrifices itself to save him later. Like, he sort of, without even realizing it, becomes part of this community, his pack, of course. And it's just, and then very cool is this concept of like, in Yautja culture, it's, yeah, you're part of a clan, but you're also not part of a family. And what's cool is this is sort of the ultimate found family story because he builds his own family, his own pack. And I love the way at the end he's like, I got my own clan. It's
Yeah.
just, it's very cool. But then to the point about Thea's dialogue, she's also got the line about like, I can survive on my own, but who would want to survive on their own? Again, the whole point
Yes.
being that's not why we're here. So that's all in there. It's just, and there's so many moments like that throughout. I really, really, really love it. And it's so cool. And then obviously once we start to get to the revelation about the callus, which, speaking of which, how early did you figure that out?
I think it's the moment when they get to the camp and
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm.
There's a moment right before he fights the Callus
Right,
where
exactly. It tips
I
you
was like,
off.
hold up.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
You kind I yeah, and you start to put it together that these two creatures are connected in some way.
Yeah, I think it's the first time you saw the callus directly, because prior to that we only saw images of the callus, right? It was always like
Yeah.
projections or whatever. But
Yeah,
when it
yeah, it was
actually
very
showed up on
obscured, yeah.
screen, I saw the facial resemblance pretty much immediately, and I was like, oh, and I was like,
Yeah.
and then once, of course, the whole thing of like, it stops and hesitates before killing him, and even before it was obvious that
Yeah,
it was sniffing him, I was like, yes, see, there it is. I was so excited, and I just remember thinking that was incredibly cool.
This is one of those points where I can go like, I think Dan Trachtenberg and I agree on a lot of things about storytelling, because I have a thing that I'll say a lot of the time, because people will complain about movies, go like, so predictable. I knew that was going to happen. It was so predictable.
Yeah.
And this is my like counter of like the M. Night Shyamalan, Christopher Nolan thing, where people want to just be surprised. And it's like, well, I can tell you a story that's very surprising by doing something that's not connected or organic or like implied in any way by the storytelling. What is impressive is when the filmmaker keeps something from you, keeps an important piece of information from you, and then reveals it bit by bit, so that you as an audience member put it together right before the movie tells you. And this is one of those instances where it's like, yeah, at the beginning of that Callus fight, there's, I can't remember exactly what it was, but there is a moment that like sort of makes you go like, wait a second.
Yeah, wait, hold on.
Isn't that a thing that Bud did? Or like, and you kind of,
there's something subtle. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of just start to put it together and you start to question it. And then by the end of that fight, you're going, oh, that's Bud's mother.
Yeah.
Like that's what's happening here. And then, so yeah, when he I is essentially defeated and it smells
Yeah.
The Callus smells him,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like 100%, 100%, I'm right. Like that
Yes.
feels good. It
Yeah.
feels good, and that's what it's
Absolutely.
supposed to be. That's how the twist is supposed to be revealed. It's
Mm-hmm.
not supposed to blindside you. It is supposed to be a thing that you are in on, and that like you feel the very subtle hand of the filmmaker going like, see what I did there, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
there's it,
Yeah.
you need just a little tiny touch of that,
Yeah.
and I
Mm-hmm.
think like that's the it's the difference between trying to make a movie that's like shock and awe, and a movie
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that is a joyful experience,
Yeah.
honestly, because like that, to me, one of the best things
Mm-hmm.
in a movie is when you get that moment. It's when you get that Chekhov's gun where you're like, I was watching the movie good,
Mm-hmm.
and now I know this is how they're going to solve the problem.
Yep.
You can go the other way with it fully, where it's like that was very obviously set up, and now I'm just watching the whole thing, waiting for that Chekhov's gun
Yes.
to go off.
Exactly.
And that, like, that's the counter to it, of like you showed your hand too early, or you
Right.
were too blatant about it.
Yeah.
There's a balance. It's delicate, and Dan Trachtenberg has shown in all of his films
Mm-hmm.
that he gets it, and that he's very good
Yeah.
at, as you said, like the setup and the
Mm-hmm.
payoff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you're gonna make me sit there for 2 hours, which this movie doesn't actually,
Yeah. It's like hour and
it's
48 minutes or something.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
tight, it's
Mm-hmm.
tight. I But if you're gonna make me sit there for 2 hours, I mean, like Avengers Endgame, I think, is a really great example of this. There's a bunch of stuff, because like Endgame, like the Russo set stuff up in Infinity War
Oh
that
yeah.
pays off in Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about an almost 6 hour experience.
Yeah.
But it works because
Mm-hmm.
they thought about it, they planned it, they hinted things at the right times.
Mm-hmm.
And those payoffs feel good, because
Yeah.
as an audience, again, we're like along for the ride with it. And if you've seen all the Marvel movies, then you're like,
Yep.
oh cool, they're gonna bring in this, they're gonna do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very similar sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Dan Trachtenberg just does these so well within his films. Again,
Mm-hmm.
another similarity to Ryan Johnson, who's
Absolutely.
so good at being like, hey, look at Leia, disrupting the hologram,
Yep.
and destroying the ship,
Yep.
and then later on in the movie we get to see that, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's all there
Oh,
for you
it's
if you
so cool.
care to watch.
And it's nice too because I mean, because this is how they work. I do know, watching these movies every time, I'm like, I know that's gonna be significant later. I just don't know how.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
discovery of how that thing from earlier is significant is a lot of the fun of it, because
yeah,
I really love, like, oh haha, it's so funny, this creature spit on him and claimed him, and then later, whoa, like what a cool
yeah,
way to reuse
yeah.
that, to bring that back. So it's really fun. Another thing I want to mention is that, to go back to the sort of like, this is all about Deck discovering feminine wisdom and so on and so forth. There's some cool things going on with the mother characters, because there are three significant mothers in the film. There's obviously Mother, the AI, who is
Mhm.
freaky, and then there is the Kalisk, who is a mother who they have to rescue, and then there is, at the stinger at the very end, Deck's mother, who shows up. And
Yeah.
so that's very cool, because you have these three different views of mother, and sort of where they are on the spectrum of good to evil, and technological versus, organic and everything. So it's really neat. And I also think there are, because Deck is traveling around with, three feminine characters, it's also very much, kind of a maiden mother crone aspect as well. So
Mhm.
you have, Bud, who is the child, therefore maiden. You have, Thea, who ends up becoming his counterpart and helping to care for Bud, and therefore mother. And then the older Kalisk, who is crone, and eventually, of course, dies at the end, which is what the crone does. And so it's all very interesting that he's traveling around with this, archetypical typical feminine. Um,
Yeah.
it's just, again, there's so much depth and so much cool stuff going on, and I just really wish we could, like, pin Trachtenberg down for like a minute and be like, dude, I need to know how much you thought about this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fess up.
Yeah. it's an interesting thing because you want to know like how much of this is intentional and how much of this
Yeah.
is just instinctual. Like
It's hard to know. Yeah.
he's digested enough story that he just
Mm-hmm.
knows these things
Mm-hmm.
inherently because this is we talk about this whenever we talk about Joseph Campbell and we talk about
Mm-hmm.
the hero's journey.
Yeah.
People misunderstand the hero's journey and its purpose. They
Mm-hmm.
think that it's a rule set that you're supposed to follow when it's not. It is simply Joseph Campbell defining things that were already happening.
Yep.
Like he's just putting a lens and language
Mm-hmm.
to a phenomenon that occurs across cultures, across
Yep.
time. And so you get this thing of like, I wonder if this filmmaker knows that they're doing this or if it's
Mm-hmm.
just a thing that they are instinctually, they're just a good storyteller and
Mm-hmm.
so they're including those elements, right?
Yeah.
um I think one of the most interesting aspects of and I don't know nearly as much about this as you and Marie Claire do. You guys talk about this so much, and so everything that I know is essentially what I have learned from listening to you guys. I am very much deck in that respect. On that journey with you guys, um, but Mother, the AI
Mm-hmm.
is the one that is like it's named Mother,
Mm-hmm.
yet it is ultimately not a mother. Like a
Yep.
like Mother is a wolf in sheep's clothing, right?
Yeah.
Like
Right. Right.
it Mother is very much male
Mm-hmm.
from an archetypical standpoint because it's very much dominating. It is the personification of the patriarchy.
Right.
Which manifests itself in greed and avarice and all, you know, the seven deadly sins are basically represented throughout all of the stories that involve Wayland Yutani.
Yeah.
They like Mother is everything. It's so interesting to me because in Greek mythology we attribute it all to Pandora, right? The
Right.
Pandora is the one who
Mm-hmm.
opened the box, and then all of the bad stuff gets out, and that's why the world sucks. It's a
Yeah.
woman's fault, right? We always say like it's
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
woman's fault, but the box didn't belong to Pandora. The
Mm-hmm.
box was like it you know like it existed before her, and
Yeah.
the gods, most of whom are male, allowed this to happen, you know,
Yeah.
like. And so that would like there's always like this thing of like let's put all of the ills of the world on the label of a woman, and the way that Wayland Yutani uses that almost in a reverse way of like, we know that we're corrupt, we know that we're a bad organization, we know that we just care about immortality
Yeah.
and money and all the,
Right.
let's call our AI Mother,
Well,
and then people will trust it.
it's what it is if you want to get into the specific archetype, it's
Yeah.
a devouring mother, and that is something
Mm.
that does show up. And in fact, I would argue that in the Star Wars extended universe, it's the original Legends universe. It's
Mm-hmm.
Aboleth um
Yeah. Yeah.
was like a devouring mother. I think she was even like an alternate name for her. I think was the Maw. I think like
Yes.
MAW,
Yeah.
like a mouth, and so that is definitely a thing that shows up. And to your point, yes, it does tend to be in service of patriarchy, and that's what it is. It's a mother figure, but it's a devouring mother. Instead of being life giving, it is life taking, and so that's what Mother, of Wayland Yutani. That's what it is, and that's
Yeah.
why again having these different mother characters is really fascinating. That there's three of them. So again, it's back to that like trigoddess theme that we see a lot and everything. It's so I'm
Mm.
and what you usually get with the trigoddess motif is they represent the full cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And so what's interesting is you have the Kalisk would represent rebirth because of the fact that it regenerates and that it's like and even once it does actually die in this story, then it is succeeded by its child. Therefore, the cycle continues, right? Rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Mother of Wayland Yutani, which is going to be the consumptive, destructive aspect, because that's
Mm-hmm.
all she does. All it does is just consume, consume, consume. And so, sort of the unknown here, and what I'm really looking forward to in the next installment, presumably, is going to be Deck's mom,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I'm super excited into. But before we talk about the future, I want to ask you, why do you think that uh, Thea remains separated from her legs as long as she does in the story?
Oh boy. I don't know. There's a component, because I've been thinking a lot about the fact that she's a twin,
Mm-hmm.
and that they're separated, right?
Yep.
That her and Tessa are separated.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they come back together, we learn that Tessa, although she looks exactly like Thea, that
Mm-hmm.
spiritually they're not twins, right?
Yep.
They're disconnected and they're disjointed. And then later on in the movie, when the legs become their own character,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, so Thea is a twin. She's just like, that's her
Yeah.
other half, is the legs,
Yes.
right? So
Yep.
it's like, from a symbolism standpoint, it's like she's her own twin.
Mm-hmm.
And when she comes back together, like when those pieces come back together, it's like, she's whole again.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I don't know, but this is why I want to talk to you about it, because
Yeah.
I'm sure that you've got all sorts of
It's so cool. It's so cool. Well, it
knowledge to
is,
drop.
the separation. So to your point, the separation from Tessa and the separation from
Hmm.
herself are the same thing, right? They're different
Yeah.
expressions of the same thing, which it's psychic dismemberment. And psychic dismemberment is trauma. It often is a failure to accept some truth. So it tends to be denial a lot of the time. So it's a lot of different things, but
Hmm.
that's psychologically, that's what that is. And so she is physically and psychically dismembered. She is separated from some important knowledge that she's going to have to integrate in order to be whole. And what happens is, she basically, being reunited with Tessa is her false boon of success. It is
Hmm.
like, oh, this is what I needed. I'm reunited with my other half. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. And because she doesn't need the knowledge that Tessa has, she rejects it. She's like, no, actually, I don't want to be here to consume and destroy. I actually want to be here to be part of a family that is life giving. That's what she wants. And so ultimately, she has to decide that she wants to be part of the family that Deck is creating, and that she knows who she is, she knows what she's about. And that's when she is able to reunite, to your point, with herself, the part of herself that she's missing, in order to be whole again. So I just thought it was incredibly cool, because they do have her, like, when they get back to the camp, and she's kind of knitting herself together again, and you think
Hmm.
she's gonna be whole, but then she's not. And then again, it's because it's symbolically, she hasn't really learned the lesson she needs to learn in order to be a whole and healthy person yet. So it's very cool.
See, and that's the example of, like, Dan Trachtenberg may very well have the instinct
Yeah,
to put these into the story, but not have the language like
sure.
you do, right? Like, because I understand in this, when I watch the story, that, like, yeah, this is, there's symbolism going on here. There's a reason
Mm-hmm.
why she's cut in half,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. And when she comes back together, and it's like, oh, she's whole, and now they've completed their journeys, right?
Yep.
Like we see them at the end of the movie, in the coda, in the post credits sort of moments. It's like, oh, here's these, like, fully realized heroes, right?
Yep.
But I just don't have the language for it a lot of the time, that you guys do, because you've actually studied, cracked a book, uh,
it's
unlike me.
it's
But
fine though, but it's
yeah, yeah,
cool. It's just, it's neat when these things show up.
yeah,
I really, really love it. And then I think the last thing that I definitely wanted to cover, and I totally want to talk about, like, future state stuff and everything,
yeah,
is I actually, again, to the point of it being super in your face, so you can't miss it, all the stuff about wolf and wolf packs, I also
yeah,
think was really, really fascinating. Firstly, the main purpose of it, of course, is like, oh, they hunt in packs, and the alpha is the one that, like, protects them all. I mean, first off, just to put it out there, this works fine for the story, but everyone needs to understand that the whole concept of alpha has been long since debunked. It is not scientifically
yeah,
valid. So
yeah.
alpha is not a thing, firstly. But secondly, what is interesting and what Thea doesn't mention, because again, I understand why it works better for the story, but this is where knowing a little bit of background can actually enrich the story. The leader of a wolf pack is usually a matriarch. It's usually a female wolf. And so that is also really fascinating that, again, to kind of see Deck's journey and this transformation. He's not on a journey to become a father. He's on a journey to become a mother.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he's doing. And so it's very cool that that's what happened. And to kind of like drive that point home at the very, very end, which I really love.
Yeah. This is the point where a lot of people recording a podcast or being a public person on the internet would couch this and go like, I don't want this to get into like, political current events or anything. And I don't want to say that, but I do. This is absolutely my read on it. And this is what I would talk to Dan Trachtenberg if I were to be alone in a room with him, and have this conversation. This is like full stop, all caps, bold font, a condemnation of patriarchy. We've already talked about that.
Oh, hell yeah!
But like, it is a condemnation of like everything that has led to the situation that we're in right now with, what we call the male loneliness epidemic, which is in and of itself a ridiculously misogynistic way of looking at things. And just like this, frankly, like this cultural disease that men are infected with, that is a result of the patriarchy and capitalism and dominator culture. This movie is a very fantastical lens to tell a story of how you break free from that culture. And the sequel then needs to be how Deck, being the hero, goes on a hero's journey. That's his elixir, right? Is this patriarchy stuff is nonsense.
Yeah.
It's absolute nonsense. I am not strongest on my own. I am not valued because I can kill. I am valued because I can protect. I am valued because I'm a part of a whole. I am valued because I am the stepping stone to the future, right? Like, which is this thing that like men today, and I think The Predator exemplifies this. Men today are told you must be the most powerful individual in your sphere. If you can't, there are, all the manosphere influencers. If you walk into a room and you can't kill every man in that room,
right,
you need to get stronger. And it's like, I walk into a room and I want to, this is just me, and I'm not trying to like, toot my own horn or anything like that, or like, it's just, this is just who I am, is like, I just think from a protection standpoint, not of like, can I defend everybody in this room from a threat, but it's just like, what do people in this room need from me? And this is, to be honest, when I talk to my therapist, this is to my detriment. This is, I kind of like kill myself trying to help everybody else.
Right.
And then stop and go like, wait a second, but what about me?
Yeah. Right? Yeah. You have to put your own oxygen mask on before you
having
help
to find that balance. Right.
Yeah.
But that is, I like that's the transformation of Deck's character, is that he goes from being this person who very much fails at being the strongest man in the room. And then realizes over the course of his journey that the strength that he needs actually is inside, right? This is like the classic cliched trope of like, no, you had, it was the what, the hero juice or whatever from Space Jam, right? It's like, it's fake. It's inside you the whole time.
Well, and in his connection with others, which is the other key.
But what's more important is that you are a part of something larger than yourself, right? And Thea comes from a similar thing of like she she's a part. It's the reverse, right? They're sort of mirror. They're not shadows of each other as much as they're mirrors of each other, right? Where like she's coming from this thing. It's like you're part of a collective. You're a cog in a machine. That's all you are. That's all you'll ever be. What you are as an individual will never be important.
Yep.
What you desire, what you are looking for, what you want, it doesn't matter. And that's where like her journey with Deck shows her the value of individuality. And his is the value of the collective, because as with all things, and this is what Bud represents, is the balance in between.
Yep.
There's a balance in between there, and it's not, and Star Wars fans, hear this one, get it in your head, and then rewatch The Last Jedi. Balance is not a thing that we achieve. It's a thing that we practice. It is a daily practice. It is something that we have and then we don't. And balance anything. Take any object and balance it on your finger. This is actually the point of Thanos' whole story.
Right.
Is perfectly balanced as all things should be. It's impossible. It is impossible for anything to be perfectly balanced. You get fleeting glimpses at balance. That's all we ever get, is like a moment here or there. Luke has a moment of clarity.
Yep.
He is enlightened for a moment, and it serves him well in that moment. But it's actually not even what saves the day, guys. Like that's Luke Skywalker dies on the Death Star, if not for Anakin's sacrifice. So saying that he became a super Jedi in that moment, it's like you're not watching the same movies.
Yeah, it's not even totally accurate. Exactly.
Yep. And that's where this journey and moving into the next phase of this story. And I'm so interested with Killer of Killers and the way that ends, and the post-credit scene there of everybody coming back in Killer of Killers, and where Deck is going to fit into that narrative, because I do believe that that's sort of where we're going. I'm so fascinated at how Deck maintains that balance and continues.
Yeah, definitely. And let's segue into that, because I want to point out how like Dan Trachtenberg puts an exclamation point on this idea of patriarchy has failed. Let me make sure that you're totally clear about this. And the way he does it is a few things happen in sequence. Firstly, Deck gets pierced through his thigh. And that is a symbolic wound, because in folklore and mythology, there is a character called the Fisher King. And symbolically, when he is pierced through the thigh and becomes sick or injured, then he is the sick king. He cannot rule because of this injury. And similar to psychic dismemberment, it is a moral injury. And specifically for masculine characters in the story, this is a symbolic castration. It literally is saying, like, your power, your dominant power is, it doesn't exist. It's cut off. And so so that's what's happening there. So anytime, I would just encourage everyone to look out for this, because it shows up a ton in fiction and especially in film. Anytime you see a thigh wound, you're like, oh, Fisher King, symbolic castration. So that's what happened here. So he is right at the very end, he is pierced through. And that's sort of like the very end of any identification that he may have had. And granted, he's been leaving it behind throughout the film, but any identification that he might have had with patriarchy, it's done then. It's like, again, put a pin in it, literally, that's the end of it. And then he uses the razor grass that pierced his thigh to finally kill Tessa, who, keep in mind, has totally adopted the patriarchal approach. So he's sort of like, no, I'm using this, again, symbolic wound, this, like a symbolic castration against you, the patriarchal power. Then they go back to Yaocha Prime for him to face his father. And the way that he defeats his father is literally the exact same way that his father killed his brother Quay. Right down to, we chop off the arm, and then instead of him decapitating him, Bud comes up, now partially grown, and chomps off his dad's head. And so that there, because Bud is also a feminine character and, goes in, chomps off the teeth, that's also a symbolic castration because it's vagina dentata,
Yeah.
which is the feminine toothy creature. And
Yeah.
so it's like, so several symbols in a row. Dan Trachtenberg is like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
And by the
Yeah.
way, now Deck's mom is back. So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. And
so,
yeah,
yeah.
like the like you say, like the exclamation point
Yeah.
on the whole down with the patriarchy thing
Yeah. It's
is that we've
militant.
had all of these movies about predators, and they've all had male predators, and
Yep.
the predator is this, he is this symbol of masculine dominance.
Yep.
He's a hunter, he's a killer, he's a
Mm-hmm.
master of all of these weapons and
Mm-hmm.
violence and all of these things that male dominator culture values, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here Deck has shed all of that and then like rebuilt it, but in this like with this feminine lens on it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Of being one with nature, of being
Yep.
connected to his surroundings, of being part of a community, all that. He builds up everything else. He has all of the tools of a predator,
Mm-hmm.
but now they're all representative of the goddess and not of the
Yep.
patriarchy, right?
Yep.
Which is just like, it's so good. As if that wasn't good enough,
Mm-hmm.
Trachtenberg comes in at the last second and goes, "Oh, the scariest predator isn't a dude. The scariest predator is a woman."
I love it.
And it's one of those things of like, it's where I sit in that theater and I go, "You're making these movies for me, Dan. Like you and I, you like." And I have the same feeling when I watch Rian Johnson's movies, because so often he does stuff like that where he's like, all of these things that you guys think are so great about men. Like, I took James Bond and he is gay
Yep. Yep.
as
Yep.
the day is long in these films. He is a theater guy. And I just want to like it's, I have this conversation with people so often about Harrison Ford, where you see an interview with Harrison Ford and he's talking about his craft, he's talking about his art, and especially the older that he gets, the more he leans into this.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe like The Mask just isn't there as much. But when you get Harrison Ford talking about his craft, he is always on the verge of tears.
Yeah.
Like, what? Go find interviews.
So
He is
cool.
always on the precipice of an emotional breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And he plays these very classically, we see them as these very classically male patriarchy,
Like very
dominant.
reserved.
But they're actually like, then you read his characters and you get the subtext of his characters, and
Mhm.
Indiana Jones isn't, Han Solo isn't,
Mm-hmm.
even Deckard is not.
Yep.
Like, they actually all are incredibly fragile. They are incredibly weak. They will shatter if you hit them in the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's in every single one of his characters. And it's like, Harrison Ford's an actor. He's an artist. He is a thespian, guys.
Mm-hmm.
He is not that thing. And he is also all of those other things. He has a ranch and he flies a helicopter and rescues people off of the side of mountains. And like, he is a very masculine person in his reality and in his characters, but masculine and patriarchal in the context of patriarchy that we're talking about are not the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like there's a positive masculinity, and Deck by the end of this film has a positive masculinity to him.
100%. Yep. He really is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it is to say, like, the patriarchy part of it, which the patriarchy is just a quicker way of saying male dominator, right? Like that's what it is. A patriarch is a man who is in charge. It is a male presence that is in charge.
Yep.
Because why? Because men are bigger, because men have more muscles, and it's like, well, that's not even necessarily true.
Yeah.
Killer of Killers drives this point home with,
with the Viking woman.
Son, the son being very weak, not just in terms of physicality, but also in terms of his integrity and his morality, which is what that story is about.
Yep.
And the mother, this Viking woman, is the strongest out of the three heroes that we get in that story. She is the most dominant.
Yeah.
out of the three of them, and she is a woman. And I like that. To me, is like that he is laying the groundwork for what the predator, the Yautja matriarch, is going to be
Yep.
in whatever, whether it's going to, we're going to see that character. Although I'm not 100% sure. I think maybe the one of the big predators that's in Killer of Killers at the end
Mhm.
is meant to be female.
I
I
think
have
so
to watch
too.
it again. I had because I've only watched it the one time,
Mhm.
but so I think like we've sort of seen where that's going, but
Yeah.
we've never seen a female predator on screen in live action
Yeah.
yet,
Which
right?
is
So
wild when you think about it.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy that this
Mhm.
franchise has been around for 30 plus years. I mean, I think I don't remember when the first one actually came out. We've got to be, no,
It's
it's
an
more than
80s
40
movie.
years
I think
because
it's
it's
an
older than
80s
me.
movie. So
Yeah.
I don't know, Mike. We're old now.
Yeah. It's got to be. It's got to be 4
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen it. It has been in comics. Because
That's
there's
true.
more sort of expanded universe stuff
Mhm.
out there, and it has been explored, but it's never been a part of the films.
Mhm.
Um, I think, and honestly, to their detriment. But all that does is set up Dan Trachtenberg to do something incredible. Although he just signed a deal with Paramount, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means for the future of him making these movies. I have to imagine that there's one more
Oh
Predator
yeah. There
movie
has to be.
that in order for him to like finish this off.
Mhm.
Um, I just wonder if it will be, because Prey similarly ends in sort of like a dot dot dot. It's in
Mhm.
over the credits. We talked about this in our episode
Yeah.
when we talked about it. It's the cave painting sort of
Mhm.
sequence, right? Um, and it's the predators came back, right? Like
Right. Mhm.
and something happens there. Um,
Well, and then
so
are we spoiling the end of Killer of Killers because
oh yeah, yeah.
that's
People have had
relevant.
they've
So
had their chance. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So
So
we know that Naru, along with Duke, not Duke, no, Dutch. Sorry,
yeah.
Dutch and oh, what is
I don't
Danny
remember the
Glover's character's
names.
name is Mike.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know his
Mhm.
first name is Mike. I can't remember what his last name is, but uh, all of the heroes from previous Predator movies have all been captured by
Mhm.
these predators, and I they're all in stasis in the future.
Yeah.
Now Deck is way in the future. I shouldn't say that. We don't know when the heroes from Killer of Killers wake up.
Right.
So
We know
it
it's the
could,
future. We don't know how far in the future.
yeah, it could
Mhm.
be that it is Deck's time period, right? That it
Yeah.
is this sort of like 300 years ahead of us or whatever, which I think is the time frame.
Mhm.
So my guess is that the next story with the Killer of Killers, sort of where that ends off, the next animated feature
Mhm.
will be Deck and the and Bud hooking up with Naru and Dutch and everybody else,
Yeah.
and them becoming sort of like this like anti-predator squad.
Yeah.
Um, and that they're gonna then have to fight like this larger predator threat in order to I mean, like the patriarchy. That's what they're gonna fight. They're
Yeah.
gonna fight. They're
Yeah.
gonna continue to fight the patriarchy, represented by a bunch of overly macho, chauvinistic, douchebag male predators.
Yep.
I and that'll be great. That sounds like an awesome time.
It does sound
I
like
wonder
fun.
if there's another live action movie that we're gonna get before then. That's going to be yet another like sidestep in the
Yeah.
way that Badlands is a sidestep from Prey. But we're supposed to get a sequel to Prey as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Um
I'm
so
assuming they're going
I
to
don't
take
know.
that kind of the interim events and they're going to just put them on screen. I'm assuming that's what they're
I
doing,
think
but
so.
I guess we'll see.
I think that a sequel to Killer of Killers will be it'll be more vignettes, and I think that those vignettes will be Naru. I think
Right.
Dutch. I really wish I could remember. It's the movie that I actually watched more. I watched Predator 2 more recently than I watched
Yeah.
Badlands, but I can't remember his last name. But
Eh.
Danny Glover's character, like I would imagine that you would do like those 3 vignettes, and then
Yeah.
the fourth part of the story is Deck
Yeah.
coming in and liberating them along
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
bunch
Yeah.
of other people who've taken down predators. And I wonder how connected that is to his mother and all of that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know, like I can speculate and we can come up with our own version of the story. Whatever Dan Trachtenberg wants to do,
Oh
I'm down
yeah, he
for.
can tell me whatever story he wants. I'm
Yeah,
down.
blank
Mm-hmm.
check, blank check. Just please keep telling stories in this
Yes.
universe. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, going over to I think it was a deal with Paramount. Wherever he's going, whatever like magic deal he's signed to make whatever he wants. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
want him to just make whatever he wants. Um, which then brings me into you said
Yep.
give Dan Trachtenberg a Star Wars.
See, and let me just make my case, and then
Yeah,
I'm happy.
Go
I'm
for
happy
it.
to hear you out.
Go
So
for it.
it's the combination of, like, obviously on an aesthetic level. Again, when I was like, this is a lightsaber battle, I was like, yes, give Dan Trachtenberg a Star Wars. But then there were just so many other things, like all of the dark twin concepts, with
Yeah.
Thea and Tessa, even just the relationship that Deck had with his father and everything felt very Star Wars in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And then finally, just getting to the end, I have this note. Dan Trachtenberg just can't stop making Predator movies about feminine wisdom. Give that man a Star Wars. Because that's how I feel about this, is that
Yeah.
that's what I've wanted Star Wars to do for a long time. And every time they kind of do it a little bit, there's this massive backlash from the patriarchal side of fandom. And then they back off because Iger is a coward. And so Iger's going to be gone. So I'm sort of like, cool, bring in more
Yeah.
creators who have this lens, this perspective, because I want more of it in my Star Wars.
Yeah.
So that is my argument, and I'm happy to hear you out now.
Yeah, I don't disagree with your argument. I think it's a fruitless avenue to even explore, because I am just of the opinion, this is where it's controversial.
Fair enough.
I started podcasting as a Star Wars podcaster. I am currently surrounded by Star Wars stuff in the room that I'm in recording this. Star Wars is at the very core of my being. I am of the opinion that Star Wars is dead. I think it died with The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I think Solo was the last breath of it. I think that there are really cool things being done with the TV shows, but that it doesn't matter how cool those things are if nobody's watching. It doesn't matter how cool those things are if Disney doesn't believe in it. And it doesn't matter how cool any of that stuff is when the reasons for those stories being told, the things that motivate the creatives, the artists behind those, when those things are actively, and this is not speculation anymore. And this is an opinion that I have just like, I've held it for a while, but I've solidified it in the last couple of months because of things that Tony Gilroy has said.
Yeah.
Disney, and by extension, unfortunately, I don't think that this is the ethos at Lucasfilm, but I think it's unfortunately the environment that they have to exist under. The ethos at Disney is stop making movies, stop telling stories about things.
Yep.
Just make lunchboxes.
Yep.
Just make action figures. Just make theme park attractions. Stop trying to put a message in these things. And there was actually just recently, this week, a story. I saw it yesterday actually, about Pixar and about the movie Elio, which I haven't watched yet, but that there were gay characters in that, and that Disney basically said no.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's where we're at right now, and that's who owns Star Wars. And it's so funny because when Disney bought Star Wars, there was the whole contingent of people that were like, well, this will be the death of Star Wars. And I was one of those people, and you can find the recordings on the internet of me going like, no, don't be ridiculous.
Of course.
They spent $6 billion on this. They won't, you can't mess with the secret sauce. Like, you got to let Star Wars be Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then those voices turned into the fandom menace
Yep.
and are so loud that they are deafening, and they silence everybody else who is like, but this is actually what we want from Star Wars. This is actually what it was designed to be. And when Tony Gilroy isn't allowed to use the word fascist
Yeah.
to describe the Empire in
Yeah.
his
Show.
mini
Yeah.
series
Mm-hmm.
about the rise of fascism
Yeah.
in a democratic society, in the midst of the culture that we're in, he is literally barred from using the term fascist.
Yep.
I am just of the opinion Star Wars is dead.
Yeah.
Star Wars is dead. It doesn't mean that there's not Star Wars stuff coming out that is good
that you might enjoy, but
and then I'm going to enjoy. Like, we're going to cover Maul Shadow Lord on Rebel Cells, and I fully believe the future of Star Wars is and has been for a very long time the animation stuff.
Yeah.
The reason why I feel that way more than ever is because Disney isn't paying attention. They're not watching.
No.
They're not looking at it.
No.
The second that Bad Batch started to build an audience, Disney, the Eye of Sauron,
Yeah,
I know,
right?
different studio. Don't worry, one day it'll all be the same one. That's a whole other kettle of fish.
True, though. Yeah.
The second that the Eye of Sauron of Disney, of Iger, saw that Bad Batch had numbers, because people were like, oh, this show isn't actually about the clone. Like, it is about the clones.
There's more going on. Yeah.
But what was that show about? That show was about it was the same thing that this movie's about.
Right.
I'm having such a hard time not just like swearing.
I know. Me too.
But that Bad Batch was about the same thing that Badlands was about, which was the patriarchy kills us. It consumes men.
Yeah.
Men are not, we do not benefit from patriarchy. We do not benefit from capitalism. We are the fuel that, like, we're the coal that is fed,
it's getting
into
shoveled
the furnace.
in. Right.
Like, we are consumed by it and destroyed by it. All it actually does is damage, and it destroys what positive masculinity is, and it tells us that everything about that is bad. And that's what Bad Batch was about. And when we realized that partway through season 1, we were all like, this show rules.
Right.
Tell everybody how good it is. Everybody starts watching it. It starts getting numbers, and people, and even the people who don't really realize that that's what's going on, they're connecting with it for reasons that they can't put words to, because our pop culture is literally stifled from talking about this in a meaningful way. So it has to be done in these subtle ways. It has to be done with genre storytelling. And the second that show gains traction, they canceled it.
Yep.
Because that show was 5 seasons, and I will die on that hill. That show was 5 seasons to tell the story that they were going to tell, and they killed it in season 2. And so, like, season 3 is a
Kinda
shadow of what the first 2 seasons were. And creates one of the most egregious things that Disney has done in their tenure as the custodians of Star Wars, which is that Bad Batch introduced a neurodivergent lead character. They killed him in season 2.
Yep.
They killed him in season 2 to bring him back in season 3.
Yep.
To redeem him in season 4. And like, and there was a larger, I don't know what the exclamation point on that story was going to be, but I trust the people who were telling that story, that they had somewhere that they were going with it. There was a purpose to it. And because the show got cut off, and because season 3 ends up not reflecting any of those choices, Tech dies in season 2. All they did was they just murdered a neurodivergent character.
And it went nowhere.
Star Wars's first like all caps neurodivergent character. Because there is an episode where he says, in like no uncertain terms, the literal definition of that phrase, he says, I am autistic. I am an autistic clone. That's what makes me different from the other clones. It's why I am in bad batch. It's why I was discarded for
Right.
this reason, right? Like they all have this thing that makes them undesirable, and for him it was, I am autistic. That
Yeah.
is my burden to bear, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
they kill him later that season, and he doesn't get to come back, and it's like this is the stuff that, as a Star Wars fan, and then Acolyte getting canned, very
Yeah.
ceremoniously getting canned as like a dog whistle to the far right of like,
Right.
don't worry, we're not going to do any more of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then Skeleton Crew very quietly being
Yeah.
put in the incinerator. These characters will never show up in anything. This story will never have
Yeah.
closure to it,
Mm-hmm.
because Skeleton Crew is a great season. It's a great season of television. I love it so much. It's
It
one
is.
of my favorite things that they've done. Those characters, their arcs are not complete. Not a single one of them has a complete arc. Not a single character in that show has a complete arc. That was the opening act
Right.
to those characters' stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I have faith that one day something will change. Somewhere those stories can get finished. But I don't know. I am also just of the opinion now that like copyright is a mistake.
Yeah.
The way that it's
Right.
been usurped by corporations.
Mm-hmm.
Copyright was designed to protect artists. Like that was like the literal words copyright.
Mm-hmm.
It's to describe the rights of an artist to not have their work exploited and reproduced without their input, without their say so, without their involvement. Right?
Yeah.
That's the literal definition of copyright. What it has become is a way for corporations to stop artists from being able to tell the stories that they want to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And things like Star Wars, things like Predator, anything that is a franchise is shackled by copyright, and copyright is just a tool of capitalism and the patriarchy.
Yep.
And I personally, as I might not visually present as a punk, but I am punk in the same way that Superman is punk. And George Lucas was punk when he made Star Wars. He made Star Wars because they wouldn't let him make Flash Gordon.
Yep.
And no one's ever going to give me the keys to Star Wars. Like at 40, I've realized I've gotten to do stuff. I've done work for Lucasfilm. So like I did it. Check the box, like whatever, who cares? All of these other things that I love that I would love to be a part of. I would love to tell a story in the Predator universe. I would love to tell a story with Superman, with Sonic the Hedgehog, with the Ninja Turtles, whatever. But you know what? No one can stop me.
Yeah, right.
Literally no one can stop me from telling those stories. All I have to do is change the names of the characters.
Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah.
Just got to change the trademarks.
Well,
there are ways around copyright. And I just want Dan Trachtenberg to tell stories that matter to him.
Yeah.
And I want him to tell stories that have meaning in the way that Prey and Badlands, they are not about this alien monster who comes and kills people.
Right.
They're not about the violence. The violence is there and we get to enjoy it. It is quite literally the definition of having your cake and eating it too.
Yes, like, it really is.
He gives us everything we want from a bad action movie that is just about violence. And then he pumps it full of meaning and heart.
So much depth.
And this weird love and compassion that's inside Badlands that is also inside Prey that just makes me feel good inside.
Yes.
And I want him to make a million stories like this. That's all I care about. Whether it's Star Wars or Predator, it doesn't matter, because Badlands to me, this is where I can say I don't need him to go make a Star Wars. Badlands to me is the best Star Wars movie that's come out in the last 5 years.
Yes. Okay, there you go. See, I agree with that. And that's okay. And that's also where I want to kind of bring this conversation full circle, because remember at the very beginning, you were like, this is a family film. I watched it with my kids, and I'm like, I'm planning on watching it with my kids and everything. And I want to point out, not to make this whole conversation a Star Wars rant, but the fact of the matter is, something you've said many times is that Star Wars has not made an effort to appeal to children in a very, very long time. And it is to their detriment. And it is part of the reason why to the extent the franchise is dying, that is a big reason, because as much as
Yep.
you can make these stories for everyone, you need the enthusiasm of children to really keep it going. Not least just because those children do eventually become adults who then pass it down to their kids, and so on and so forth. And so the cool thing to me that Dan Trachtenberg has done with this movie specifically is he took a franchise that was firmly R-rated. This is only for adults. This is, mostly for men, etc. And he took this and he's like, this is actually for everyone. And so what he has done is he's taken the Predator franchise and he has opened it up to a whole new audience that in fact includes children. And that is so cool to me.
Yeah.
And why I want him to do as many stories in this vein as possible.
I can't believe we're an hour and 40 into this conversation and I haven't said the thing that is like the most important to me in this entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Bud is Jar Jar Binks.
Yes!
Done well.
Yes.
Bud is that character. And Jar Jar is a character archetype that exists in the original trilogy with R2 and 3PO and with Wicket and in a bunch of different ways. Even Yoda to a degree is that in Empire, right? Like Jar Jar has been, and there are a million other movies that I can point to where it's like Jar Jar is an archetype. So when I say that, I just say it to say that like he is, Jar Jar is a fully CG character that is comic relief, like the levity in order to, take the tension out of what would otherwise be an R-rated film.
Yeah.
Right. And Bud does the same thing, right? Like Bud is the same spirit of that, of why George put R2 and 3PO into Star Wars and Jar Jar into the Phantom Menace and is to me the key to when you're going to make a Star Wars story. That is actually the thing that you need above all else. Is that you need to have that character. You need to have that and that is it. What that character does is that character puts kids into dangerous situations in these stories and tells them it's going to be okay.
Yeah, you're going to be fine.
It's going to be okay. And we're going to go through it and bad stuff's going to happen and not everybody is necessarily going to make it out of it. And maybe they don't make it out intact. I just watched The Neverending Story with the girls.
Oh, yeah.
And we get to the scene, you get to that scene with Artax and like, it's a heartbreaker but it's there.
Crushing.
It's there on purpose. It's there for a reason. And at the end of the movie, in the way that Star Wars really should have in Rise of Skywalker, everything is restored. And that includes Artax and Atreus is they're riding in that field. And what I said to the girls at the end of watching Neverending Story, especially to Cassie, who is younger and she doesn't quite understand why movies need to be scary. Cara is getting there at 9. She's understanding it.
Yeah.
And she's seeking it out. But I explained to them, do you remember how it felt at the end when everything is back and all of all the characters that we lost, they're all alive again and they're happy and the world is restored. I didn't say the word restored, but like everything's back. Everything's back. And you remember how bad it felt when Artax died in the swamp? It wouldn't feel as good at the end. The reward wouldn't be a reward if we didn't go through the trials in the middle of the story.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to put characters in there that are going to keep it light and have levity and that we get to have jokes with. And the stick with the fire on the end of it is so just like, it is a thing that, that it just, it's noon.
No, I know. But it's why like BB-8 is the same character, you know, and stuff like that, right? And so you need those characters. And it also signals in general, to your point, just that the filmmaker's intent to bring that childlike perspective into the film. And I do firmly feel that it just creates a so much richer experience overall. And like you said, it makes these movies eminently rewatchable. It's so great. And so I I just think so much of this movie was even with my high expectations for a Trachtenberg installment, I was still like, it was such a surprise in so
You know,
many ways.
you know what it was? I
Mm-hmm.
went into this movie going like, Dan Trachtenberg's going to give us a great film. It's going
Right.
to be fun. It's going
Mm-hmm.
to have themes. There's going to be a morality to it that I'm going to
Yep.
like. I didn't know that this movie would be nourishing,
Yes. Oh, that's such a
right?
great word for it.
I
Yes.
didn't know that
Mm-hmm.
this movie was going to fill me up in
Mm-hmm.
a way that, like, that's what I'm there for, guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this podcast is about. That's what it's, man, I don't even know how many episodes of this show we've done, but that's the point. This is why we do Perfect 10, is to figure out these definitions and put words to these feelings that we have. And this is more than nostalgia, right? Because nostalgia is kind of empty. Nostalgia is kind of
Mm-hmm.
hollow. But what Predator Badlands did is Predator Badlands was full of nostalgia for things that it has nothing to do with.
Yeah.
Right? Like the nostalgic stuff in this movie they're not Predator things.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff from Willow and Dark Crystal and the Labyrinth and and Star Wars and all of that. And that's where I say, like, this is the best Star Wars movie that's come out in the last 5 years. And it's because it's like the thing that I'm going to the movies for, the reason why we're bringing up these pieces of pop culture, whether it's a movie or a video game or a TV show or a comic book or even an album, whatever, it is that they're nourishing. It's that they fill us up in a way. It's almost spiritual. It's religious, right?
Yeah,
It's
it
the
really
same sort of
is.
language that I would use if I were in a Christian environment talking to Christians about it. It's like, that's what it is. Like, that's what it is. It's the thing that like fills me up. And then I go, I mean, for me as an artist, it makes me go, I need to go make something. I need to
Yeah.
go tell a story. I need to go
Yes.
like now it's in the thing that was in Dan Trachtenberg.
Is
He
in
put in
you.
this movie and now it's in me. And now I need to give it to other people. Right. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
compelled.
You got
And
the
that's,
elixir.
oh, for sure, right? And that's why we tell the stories in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It's why, as a species, we developed this ability,
Mm-hmm.
because it motivates us and it reminds us what we're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that this movie was successful. I'm glad that a lot of people saw this movie. It sucks that we're in an environment now where that measure is not what it used to be, because 10
Yeah.
years ago, if this movie were a success on the scale that it was last year, we would be talking about millions and millions of people having seen this film,
Yep.
like hundreds of millions of people,
Mm-hmm.
and it having an actual impact.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's so split and fractured now that I just don't think that anything
Mm-hmm.
culture, the monolith of culture, just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But I do hope that this film hit enough people um, that weren't ready to hear it from other avenues,
Mm-hmm.
but that heard it in this.
Yeah.
Whether they fully recognized it or not, um, that seed has been planted inside them, and I hope that it's enough. And especially, like, this is to your point of like Star Wars not understanding that if you don't have the kids, then you die.
Yeah. You
I
won't last very long.
If we're not telling these stories in an accessible way where kids can engage, then as a society, as a culture, we die. And that's what's
Mm-hmm.
happened. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's what's happened in the last 20 years. That's what's happened in our generation, is that at some point people said, no, movies are better if they're R rated. They're better
Yeah.
if they're mature. They're better if they're this or that. And we stopped making movies for kids. We make
Mm-hmm.
kids movies, but those kids movies oftentimes are very watered down, don't have a lot of message. Not always. There's some stuff that makes its way through. K-pop Demon Hunters is a great example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we've fractured that storytelling, and it's no longer communal. It's no longer a thing that belongs to us as parents and to our children.
Yes.
And I think like what a mistake. And that's why I watch movies with my kids that
Mm-hmm.
are 30 and 40 years old.
Yep.
Here's one that we watched, Never Ending Story, just recently. Here's one that we haven't yet, that I think that we really need to, and I think everybody needs to, and it's Batteries Not Included, which is anti-capitalist, it's
Mm-hmm.
anti it is anti-dominator, it's all of that stuff. It's about family and community, and it's like we don't make movies like that
No, I
anymore.
know.
Nobody's making movies like that anymore, but
My
thankfully they
son,
still exist.
yeah, my son who is almost 13 watched Terminator 2 for the first time last night.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
at first he was afraid to watch because like you said, you know, I think your younger child like why does it have to be scary? Like he's older but he still just
yeah,
doesn't he gets nervous about scary things, and so we were just telling him, we were like, okay, but you're missing the whole point. The main character is a 12-year-old boy.
yeah,
You got to
yeah,
watch the movie because you're going to
yeah.
relate to it. And like, I think about that and I'm sitting here going like, can you think of an action movie, particularly an action movie with a star on the level of Arnold Schwarzenegger, that would feature a child in the lead role? Now, I can't think of anyone doing that now because that's
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
not cool now.
I think the closest thing that's done it successfully in recent years is the Ghostbusters franchise, and it
Yeah.
hasn't been as successful
Yeah. It
for them
hasn't
as they
really
would
broken
like,
through.
right?
Uh huh.
But I
Yeah.
do like and I could talk about Ghostbusters for hours and hours and hours,
Mm-hmm.
but because Ghostbusters has that thing, and the reason why it's our very first episode of Perfect 10 is Joe and I talking about Ghostbusters, and I talk
Mm-hmm.
about this. Ghostbusters works for kids. It works for adults for all of these other reasons. It's
Sure.
it's it's a great, story of these,
Mm-hmm.
everyman heroes and whatever.
Yeah.
It works for kids because it tells kids, yeah, the thing under your bed is real, but it's okay as long as you're smart and as long as you have like the gumption, essentially, like the grit, you can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Like you have the tools, you have the talent. You get yourself a proton pack, you can take care of a ghost. It's not a big deal, and that's why it connects with kids. That's why it accidentally connected to kids, because it told them that like the boogeyman is not a thing that you need to be afraid of. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I ain't afraid of no ghost. Right? And
Yeah.
that's a it's an aspect of storytelling for kids that we've lost, and that this movie, I think similarly to Ghostbusters, accidentally captures. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that Dan Trachtenberg sat down and went, I'm gonna
I'm
make a
gonna make a
family
family
friendly
friendly Predator
Predator.
movie.
Like I don't think that was his goal.
No,
I
I
think that
agree.
he started, if you listen to him on the commentary, they started with the action sequences, and it
Yeah, yeah, of
started with the
course.
concept of like, but what if we were the predator this time?
Mm-hmm.
And then as he went through the story, and as Thea came into it, and then
Mm-hmm.
Bud comes into it, he went, oh, that's what this story is.
Yeah, yeah.
And it evolved and it became that thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's, I think, what makes it a really special movie. I think it's what makes it definitively a perfect 10. I think it's what made me walk out of the theater going, that is a perfect 10. There's
Yes.
no way that this movie doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make it onto the podcast. It is unequivocal. Like there is
Mm-hmm.
no argument here that this movie is a perfect 10.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I love this movie so much.
It's so
I
good.
don't think it's just my favorite movie of last year. I think it's one of my favorite movies of like the last decade.
Yeah.
It is a movie that like I don't even have to watch it
Mm-hmm.
in order to feel filled up by it.
I
Like that's
know.
that's how good it is, that it stays with me. And all I have to do is say the phrase when Bud holds up that stick with fire on the end of
Yes.
it, and like that's it, that to me, it just like it encapsulates the whole dang thing,
Mm-hmm.
everything about it and everything that I loved about the movie. And I it just, yeah, it like that, just thinking about that shot, one
Mm-hmm.
shot of a CG character
Yep.
holding up a stick with a little bit of fire on the end of it, and I'm
Yes.
like, that's all I need in order to pick myself up and get done what I need to get done in the day,
Yep.
because Bud would be proud of me. That's all. That's what matters at the end of the day.
Yep.
What a character that we've talked so little about Bud on this podcast, where we talked about this movie. Um, what a top 10 character of all
Mm-hmm.
time for me.
So
Bud
great.
changes the movie,
Mm-hmm.
completely alters the chemistry, the makeup,
Mm-hmm.
at an atomic level of what this film is. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know if you listened to this whole conversation and you didn't watch Predator
Yeah.
Badlands
What are
yet.
you doing?
What is
Yeah.
up with you? Go watch it. If you are, if you're within earshot of this podcast, you've been told by me a million times that you need to watch this film, so you know that already. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, That's it. Is there anything else? That's all. I got everything that I needed to get into this episode into it. Is there anything else that you need to impart before we wrap it up?
No, this was super fun. I'm so glad we did this. I am completely not surprised that you and I got together to talk, and it ended up being an F the patriarchy conversation, because that's how we roll. But yeah, no, this has been really fun, and I really, really enjoy this movie, and I appreciate so much that that you let me talk about things like the Predator movies and Mike Flanagan shows and all that kind of stuff, because these are things that, like I said, in some of the circles that I run in, like, no one watches this stuff, so I have no one to talk to about it. So I'm like, Mike will talk about it with me.
Well, hey, I mean, everybody stay tuned for because I just heard that Mike Flanagan's remaking The Exorcist. So everybody stay tuned for that Perfect 10. Because
oh my gosh,
that one we are going to have a good time talking about.
Oh
that
boy.
I can't wait. I'm excited. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Missy, for hanging out and talking Predator with me. I am privileged that I get to talk to you and Marie Claire and Ty and others at this level about something as silly as Predator, because similarly to you, like, you're like, oh, I don't have anybody to talk to Predator about. It's like, I have lots of people that I can talk to Predator about, but very few people that I get to have a conversation where I'm not the one imparting the wisdom.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my friends, they're just like they're watching this stuff from a little bit more of the surface thing. Sure. And then they come to me and they want to talk to me in the same way that I want to talk to you. So I appreciate so much that I get to talk to you guys about these silly genre films and shows and stuff at this level, because it matters to me. So
yeah.
If people want more of your stuff on the internet, where should they go?
Best place to look for me is on Tumblr, where I am All Girls Are Princesses.
Awesome. I'll just always say, when you're on, when Marie Claire's on, when Ty's on, go listen to every episode of What the Force that Missy is on. They're all good. It doesn't even matter if you like the specific piece of Star Wars that you guys are talking about. It's just always a great conversation. And you guys always have such awesome, in-depth dissections of Star Wars from a lens that I just don't think a lot of people are talking about Star Wars. So it is invaluable to me, and so I just always recommend to everybody, just go listen go listen to What the Force. It's a great podcast. It's much better than my Star Wars podcast. But I it's okay. Joe and I have had a long conversation about what Star Wars podcasting is for us in the future, and it's quite simply we're going to talk about animated stuff, and we're going to stick to it, and that's it.
I love that. Well, and you know what? You're going to have so much to cover, because it's really, like you said, that's where, to the extent that Star Wars is hanging in there, it's because of the animated stuff. So, I think that's a great place to focus.
Yeah, absolutely. So, awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you to everybody on Patreon that has been super patient. It's been a little while since we've put out an episode of Perfect 10. It's been a while since I really been putting out regular episodes of anything, because of some stuff that's going on behind the scenes. I promise you're all going to get to hear about it real soon, like in the next month or so. I'm going to be able to talk about it, but it's taking a little bit longer than I originally had hoped, I guess, or anticipated, but we're so close, and then I'll be able to tell you guys all about it. And then I'll podcasting will come back into the regular schedule, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. It's exciting. Thank you guys for listening to Perfect 10. You can join the conversation on our Discord server over at thunderquack.com/Discord. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast service and leave a rating and review and share it with a friend. And until next time, remember, it's not about the score. It's about the love. Stay frosty. Thunderquack Perfect 10 is hosted by me, Michael Cohen. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at TQPerfect10, and join the community at thunderquack.com/Discord. This podcast is supported by listeners just like you over at patreon.com/Thunderquack. Head over there to get early access to episodes, exclusive podcasts, and more. This show is a part of the Thunderquack Podcast Network. Head over to thunderquack.com for more great shows. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.